How to crochet in rows, ultra easy beginner tutorial. Hi, here are abbreviations you will need to know to understand patterns. Copy and paste or whatever you want to do. Memorize them. Wrap the yarn around the hook, secure it at the bottom with your thumb, and pull yarn through the loop and continue doing that. If you need to watch this over and over or slowly, please do that. Take your time. And this chain is just for practice, so let's just make about 12. 10 to 12 chains would be great. Now we're going to learn how to make the row. We're going to be working from this end back to the first chain. Now that we have the chain as long as we want, we're going to insert our hook into the first chain from the hook, not the one that the hook is coming through, but the first chain. We're going to pull the yarn through that chain, and we'll have the 2 loops. We're going to wrap our yarn over our hook, called yarning over, and pull through both loops. And that's our first single crochet of that row. Now all we have to do is repeat that over and over into each chain until we reach the first chain that we started with. Now let's do that. Now let's just keep watching for a bit, and I'll show you every stitch till we get to the end. Okay, we're coming to the end of the chain with 2 chains left, and we're going to still do the same thing up until the last chain. Here is the last chain. Now we're going to insert that just as normal, pull it through, and then that tail, we're going to pull it through. That was that first chain that we made, the first wraparound, and we're going to tighten it up. And now we have our first row. So I'm counting my stitches by counting those little V's on the top. That's 1 stitch. Now the one that's looped around the hook does not count, just the one right before that. Okay, so now we're at the end, and this is how we're going to end this row. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, and in that first stitch, you'll know that by those V's, you are going to make a single crochet. Do you see the V's? That's the first one right there, not the one on the hook. So on the first one, make your first single crochet. By inserting your hook, pulling the yarn through, and pulling them through the loops. And we're going to continue that for each one. Now, make sure you can count your stitches here as you go, and you can go back and count the stitches by looking at the V's. Each one is a stitch. This is a basic single crochet stitch. Now, when you get more practice in, you can get all fancy and do all kinds of stitches. Okay, so now we're coming to the end of the second row. When you work back and forth, you call them rows. When you work in a circle, you call them rounds. We still have that one more stitch to work, but I'm going to be counting because I want to make sure that I am on count. Okay, let's make that last stitch. Now, it looks really small and it's easy to overlook that one. That's why it's important to keep count and to look at those V's. Insert your hook pull through and pull through both loops. And we're going to chain one, and we're going to turn our work again. So from here on out, that's what you do the whole time. Insert your hook, bring it through, pull it through the loops. Insert your hook, pull it through the loops. Now we have that last pesky little stitch to go through. Now, if I was smart, and probably what you should do until you get really familiar with it, add a stitch marker on that first stitch. And I'll show you when we turn around on this row. In the next row, I'll show you where to put the stitch marker. So I got both. I went through both stitches of that stitch. And now I'm going to do my single crochet. Still tightening up that tail. It gets a little loose sometimes. Chain one and turn your work. Now, when we make this first single crochet, we're going to mark it right here. Insert your stitch marker right where that red dot is and continue making your stitches until you reach the end of this row. Now for stitch markers, you can get fancy little stitch markers. You can use a bobby pin, and you can use a piece of contrasting yarn. That's usually what I do because I have these scraps everywhere. Now here's our last stitch and we're done. We're going to finish the stitch and chain one. Okay, now we're going to cut our yarn, leaving a long enough tail that we will be able to weave it in to secure it. Pull it through and you're done. Now I'm going to show you how to weave in your ends. Most crocheters use a tapestry needle, and the eye is big enough to put the yarn through, and you just kind of invisibly weave this in to your stitches. I like to go first up and down because that doesn't get pulled out really, and then you go in between the stitches and you just find your best way. And then I turn it around and I look at it to make sure I didn't have a long string showing there. You pull it through. You kind of tighten it and then you kind of stretch it a little bit. And now we cut this off. Be careful not to cut your work. Don't forget about that other end. You cut that off and voila, you're a crocheter. If you enjoyed this video and it helped you out, go watch one of my other videos, especially the playlist of beginner tutorials. There's always more videos to come. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share my videos. Thank you. Bye. See you next time.